Hi, a question for the Prime Minister, Matthew Scapes, the Globe and Mail. Going off a rough translation from an earlier question, you say funding requirements for the streamer's decision wasn't connected to Washington, but it was an irritant for Washington and a change the Trump administration wanted. Your government has capitulated on revenue splitting for Gordie Howe Bridge, digital service tax, and removing funding for American streamers. What has Canada gotten in return for these concessions?
Well, let's do a couple of things. Sorry, I'm going to do a little premise surgery for your question. Let's be clear about the bridge. The bridge, first off, the bridge is open. The bridge is open in a region, a narrow economic region that has $300 billion of economic activity that goes across land connections between the United States and largely the province of Ontario. $300 billion of economic activity. $6.5 billion cost of that bridge. An agreement that's less than 5% of that amount, less than 5% of that amount, that is then reinvested in economic support for that economic activity to enhance that economic activity. So we put that in perspective. That's being pragmatic and moving forward. And we got a bridge that's open. We've got opportunities open. And in terms of where we are as a country, we still have the lowest tariff rate of any country on an average basis. We still have north of 80% of our trade, 85 as we speak today, but north of 80% of our trade is tariff-free with the United States. And we're engaged in discussions with them. Now, we're engaged with discussions working to have a more permanent or more stable is a better way to put it. Nothing's permanent, but a more stable relationship, trading relationship with the U.S. That addresses issues in some of our largest industries. And that recognizes the new U.S. approach to trade. So we're starting from a strong position. And I'm going to go back to one other thing, and I'll head back, which I said at my prepared remarks. And we're stronger than we were when this started. We are stronger than we were when this started. We're growing jobs twice the rate of the U.S. Our FDI is twice the rate of our nearest competitor. That's the United States. It's twice the rate of the U.S. We're the best country in the world judged for infrastructure investment. We're focused on the right things: affordable housing, community, becoming an energy superpower, diversifying. Everybody wants to do more with Canada, except the United States. Everyone wants to do more with Canada. So we're engaged in all these trade negotiations, and we're delivering them, and we're on track to have free trade access to 3 billion consumers. That's what we got.
Follow-up?
Yeah. On the streaming decision, how should Canadians interpret that decision when Minister LeBlanc and Canadian officials are at an event yesterday co-sponsored?
We made that decision 2 months ago. That's how they should. We made that decision with a focus on affordability right out of the gate. It's not the time. Canadians are under. Sorry, I should let you finish your question. You finish your question. But Canadians have been under great pressure since COVID from overall inflation, price of groceries, housing costs, price most recently because of the war in Iran, price of energy. And we have taken, as other governments have, but we have taken a series of decisions. First thing we did was to cut the consumer carbon tax. First thing we did after the election was to cut income taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut GST for first-time home buyers up to $1 million. We implemented pro-competitive decisions in broadband. People didn't notice it, but last summer we made a pro-competitive decision in broadband. We went along with the CRTC in that case because it improved competition and has helped reinforce the fall in broadband prices. But when we see costs increase because of a decision from the federal family, broadly speaking, arm's length regulator, but from the federal family, for something that, most Canadians have one or two or so of these streamers, and it's real money. This stuff adds up. And there's a better way to do it. We took the judgment there was a better way to do it, made the investment in culture, and we'll give the direction accordingly. It's that focus on affordability. Sorry.
Can you say what we're getting in return from the U.S. right now in terms of the trade negotiations? We have these lists of things that are happening right now.
The best trade deal in the world right now. Thank you.
Next question. Question, Kissin.
Yeah, hi.
Jordan Canagan with CTV News. Thank you for taking my questions. The first question is for both the Prime Minister and for the Premier. As we move towards the referendum in October, some of the separation angst, if you will, is driven by concerns over equalization payments and the feeling and the belief that Albertans are being taken advantage of. Certainly there's some disinformation when it comes to equalization, but do you think that the program should be reviewed before its renewal in just a few years?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to lobby the Prime Minister on this. I've lobbied my fellow premiers at the table, and you can imagine that those who are benefiting from equalization want to keep the program as it is, but it's not fair because the growth in the program grows with the size of the economy, which is kind of counterintuitive, because if the economy is growing and everybody's doing better, they should be less reliant on the equalization program. In fact, we've calculated that there's overcompensation to the have-not provinces of $7 billion over the last 5 years. So my pitch to my fellow premiers, and now my pitch to the Prime Minister, is let's just get rid of that escalator. Let's equalize to the point of need, and then let's take the excess that's in that fund and distribute it back to the provinces on an equal per capita basis. That'll help us with our funding pressures. And I think it will be a demonstration that just because there's extra money, you don't just cut a check to Ontario, who clearly doesn't need it. They're a powerful economy. They shouldn't be getting equalization from smaller provinces. So that's been my consistent position. We think ultimately we should change the equalization program so that we look at per capita spending as well. We shouldn't be over-equalizing provinces so they can pay for more generous social programs than we're able to afford here ourselves. I haven't made much headway yet with my fellow premiers on who are the recipient provinces, but I can tell you that the ones who are kind of the net contributors I feel as well that we've got to get a bit more fairness into the program. So I don't know if the Prime Minister wants to respond to that, but thanks for the opportunity to put our position on the table.
Thank you. There you go. Well, he did say it was for both of us, and he just sort of nice little softball straight across the plate there, telegraphed. No, look, these are important. These are hugely important issues. All seriousness, whether it's equalization, whether it's health funding, other federal programs, and one of the things that underpins the country is a sense of fairness. And then you move into the interpretation of that fairness and how it's applied. And at the heart of fairness, and this is true it's true within a province, it's true across the country, is that Canadians have access to reasonably comparable services, right? Whether it's health, education, reasonably comparable. Doesn't mean it's exactly the same, but it's reasonably comparable, and that they have reasonably comparable resources in order to do that. Now, the second part of that equation, the reasonably comparable resources, the calculation of that and how that changes over time. Some provinces do better, others do, things, there are shocks. The trade stuff can be an element of that if it's more persistent. And that's why the program is reviewed on a regular basis. It's not reviewed every year. And that's a cooperative and engaged process, and we have a review of that coming up, and of course we'll be looking hard at that. The other element, of course, is delivering services right here and now, and making sure that we are, again, in that spirit of cooperative federalism, that when I say we, the federal government, is delivering, recognizing the differences in the capacities, the needs, the capabilities of the various provinces, and that's what you're seeing today.
Follow-up.
Thank you. Yes, and for the Prime Minister again, we're 3 weeks away until new President Trump's tariffs coming into effect. Are you willing to use Canadian energy as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations with the United States? Yes or no?
We're 3 weeks away from the August deadline. My colleagues, Janice Charette, who's our chief trade negotiator, and Minister LeBlanc, the relevant minister, are both in Washington now. So they're engaging with their counterparts. Look, we will, first and foremost, we're engaged in those negotiations to look to find a mutually beneficial solution. And we're only going to accept a solution that works for Canadians. We have lots of options of what we would do if that's not there, both positive in terms of supporting the economy and also addressing other issues. But I'm not going to be drawn on what we're going to do. We're going to focus now on on building towards an agreement if an agreement is possible.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll have time for one last question. Dernière question. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Will Vassar with the Western Standard. This one's for the Prime Minister, and it kind of builds upon the last part of the previous question. But in Alberta, specifically talking about Alberta oil, to what degree does the risk of really inflaming the independence sentiment here weigh into that decision of whether or not to put Alberta oil on the table?
I think one of the things, I'd answer this way. Thank you for following up with it. I wanted to give a broader answer to the way we're looking at the trade negotiations, but you're coming back to this core thing. It's important. Being a reliable supplier is important. Canadians are reliable. Canadians can be trusted. It's one of the things that you see in the world. We have many exports and commodities. One of the biggest commodities, arguably the best, is trust. People trust us. And so when you're a supplier of a key commodity, key service, you got to think really hard about not supplying. So that very much colors it. So look, this is incredibly diverse country, economy. We have many things we can do. First and foremost is to work towards an agreement. That's what we're going to do. But there's other things we can do if we needed to address the situation was there. And the issue you're raising that was raised previously, it's not. I don't see the value of doing. I mean, I can understand conceptually, but I don't see the value of it. So it doesn't enter in. I guess to put a fine point on the way you asked the question, the referendum, the calculate that doesn't enter into the calculus. It's a bigger issue, more fundamental issue.
Last follow-up. Go ahead.
The independence question takes up a lot of the air with the referendum, but other questions on it address immigration. And the Premier's talked about wanting to seek more provincial control over immigration. And so my question would be, what's your willingness to work with Alberta on that if Albertans vote they want to seek more provincial control?
I think I'd say a couple of things. First, we had a discussion of this just a few days ago amongst First Ministers. I thought it was quite a productive discussion because it was a well-informed, well-grounded stock take of where we are and a commitment to, and this obviously Premier has her perspectives and views and represented them well, but all of the premiers, including territorial premiers, raised issues around this. And let me put immigration in context, and I'll finish, and maybe give Madame a very quick. I'll finish this though. We have taken back control of immigration. The government's been in place for 16 months. We came in where immigration had been far too high. We'd lost control, of levels and foreign students and temporary workers. The level of asylum seekers is down a third, or the flow. The temporary foreign workers down by a half. Foreign students down by 2/3. So we've taken control. We're on top of the numbers. Now it creates the opportunity, and as First Ministers, Premiers, Prime Minister, governments, we need to discuss where we go from here. Do we still need to, because the overall levels still are putting pressure on housing others. So do we still need a few more years of restraint? There's a good argument for that, but we need to discuss that. And then at the same time to talk about, as economic migrants come in, as the term is used, well, what skills should they have? And do the provinces have a better perspective on what those skills would be, and how do we engineer a system for that? That was the spirit of the discussion, and we're very open to that discussion. That doesn't require any tick on any box in a vote, because that's working again to get things right. And I think this is going to be the good news is, because we've taken back control on immigration, it creates the possibility to have that discussion. If the whole thing were, we still were having overshoots by 500,000, 1 million people relative to what we expected at any given time, we didn't have the space for that discussion. Now we've created the space, as we should, and that's what Canadians